When you picture America, maybe you see the skyline of New York, the beaches of California, the endless highways crossing vast farmlands and mountains. Maybe you see bustling downtowns full of people on their way to work, kids riding bikes in suburban streets, or crowds at baseball games and music festivals. It's an image of plenty, of success, of possibility. But if you take a closer look behind some of those bright lights and busy streets, you'll find a different America. One that lives hidden in plain sight. In tents pitched under bridges, in parks, along sidewalks, and behind big box stores. This is the America of the tent cities. An America many people try not to see because it's uncomfortable to face. But the truth is, this part of America is growing. Each year, more people find themselves pushed out of their homes and onto the streets, forced to live in makeshift shelters built from tarps, blankets, and donated tents. People become homeless for countless reasons, but a big one is money. For decades, the cost of rent has climbed faster than wages. In many cities, even a full-time job paying minimum wage doesn't cover a basic apartment. Families who scrape by each month paying rent, bills, groceries, and bus fares have no cushion if something goes wrong. One missed paycheck, one unexpected hospital bill, or a broken-down car can be enough to tip them over the edge. When the money runs out, people make hard choices. They double up with relatives if they can. They couch surf, staying with friends for a few nights here and there. But eventually, the welcome wears out. Not everyone has family or friends with space, so when there's nowhere left to go, they end up outside, in a tent if they're lucky, or just a blanket on a sidewalk if they're not. Some people think, why don't they just go to a shelter? It sounds simple enough. But shelters are not always the safe haven people imagine. Some are overcrowded and noisy, with rows of metal bunks squeezed into tight spaces. Some shelters have strict rules: no pets, no couples, no personal space. Many close during the day, forcing people back onto the street from early morning until night. And then there's the danger. Not everyone feels safe in a shelter. Theft happens. Fights break out. For women, it can be worse. The threat of harassment or assault makes some choose the relative privacy of a tent instead. Others live with mental health struggles that make crowded dorm-style sleeping nearly impossible. So people pitch tents on sidewalks, empty lots, riverbanks, and freeway underpasses. These tent cities become makeshift neighborhoods. They may look chaotic to outsiders, but within them, people build small communities. Neighbors watch out for each other's stuff when someone goes to get food. They share blankets, spare cigarettes, and the latest news about where outreach workers might be handing out hot meals. Life in these camps is not easy. It's cold in the winter, stifling in the summer. Rain turns everything to mud. Wind tears holes in tarps and blows tents into the street. People wake up sore from sleeping on concrete or hard dirt. There's no privacy. Every cough, every fight, every quiet cry in the night, it's all out in the open. And there's another problem: where to go to the bathroom. Many tent encampments have no access to toilets or running water. Gas stations and fast food restaurants often lock their restrooms or put up "no public restroom" signs. People end up using alleys, bushes, or plastic bags. Cities complain about unsanitary conditions, but often fail to provide enough public restrooms or trash pickup to handle the need. Each day is a routine of survival. People wake up early to avoid police sweeps or angry business owners. They pack up their belongings if they can carry them, or risk losing everything in a cleanup. They look for food, water, and a place to rest. Some stand on corners with signs asking for spare change. Others collect cans and bottles to recycle for a few bucks. Some find day labor, washing dishes, moving boxes, or helping on construction sites when they can get picked. Many living in tents carry the weight of shame. Once they may have had normal lives, jobs, families, homes. Some had good careers that disappeared in an economic downturn or after an injury. Others fled abusive relationships or left home as teens to escape violence, only to find the streets just as cruel. It's a harsh reality to go from paying rent to hoping someone will drop $1 in your cup so you can buy a sandwich. Addiction is part of the crisis, too. Not everyone living outside uses drugs or alcohol, but many do. For some, addiction was there long before homelessness. For others, the misery of sleeping rough pushes them to use. A way to numb the cold, the fear, the boredom, the constant ache in their bones. Drugs become a kind of escape when the nights are long and hope feels far away. Sometimes cities try new ideas. Some have built tiny home villages, rows of small cabins with doors and beds, shared kitchens and bathrooms. Others create sanctioned encampments with portable toilets and garbage pickup. These efforts are controversial but often safer than unsanctioned camps where there's no sanitation, no oversight, and constant threats of eviction. But even these temporary solutions point to the bigger truth. People need real homes. A tent is not a home. A tiny cabin is better, but it's still a stopgap. What people want, in the end, is what most of us take for granted. 4 walls, running water, a bathroom, a kitchen to cook food, a roof that doesn't flap in the wind. Housing First programs have shown real promise. These programs don't ask people to get clean first or get a job first. They simply give people a stable place to live, then wrap support around them to tackle addiction, mental health, and finding work. When people have an address, they're more likely to stick with treatment, hold down jobs, and rebuild broken family ties. Many people living in tents get swept up by police or city crews over and over. A city might clear out a large camp, throw away tents, sleeping bags, and clothes, and a week later, new tents appear nearby. It's like pushing water downhill. Without somewhere better to go, people have no choice but to set up again wherever they can. Some communities are trying to face this reality head-on. They're passing tenant protections, expanding affordable housing, or converting old hotels into apartments for the homeless. They're adding mental health teams that meet people where they are instead of waiting for someone to show up at a clinic. They're training police to handle situations with care instead of force. But there's still so much more to do. Because while it's easy to think homelessness is someone else's problem, it could happen to almost anyone. One lost job, one medical emergency, one divorce or family crisis, and people find themselves in the same place they once thought they'd never be. Behind each tent flap is a story. A man who worked construction until his back gave out and the painkillers turned to heroin. A mother who left an abusive partner with her kids but couldn't afford the rent on her own. A teenager who aged out of foster care on his 18th birthday with a garbage bag full of clothes and nowhere to go. What can we do? It's a hard question with no easy answer. But we can start by seeing the people in tents as people first. Smile at someone instead of crossing the street. Donate to local shelters, volunteer at soup kitchens, vote for leaders who promise real solutions instead of quick sweeps. Support policies that build more housing people can actually afford. We can push for mental health care that's easy to reach and treatment for addiction that doesn't punish people for being sick. We can advocate for jobs that pay a living wage so that a full week's work means you can pay your rent, buy groceries, and still have something left for a rainy day. Because in the end, the tents aren't really the problem. They're the symptom. They remind us that the cost of doing nothing is people living and dying on the sidewalks of the richest country in the world. They remind us that a nation built on the dream of a home for everyone can't keep pushing people out into the cold while pretending it's someone else's responsibility. It won't be solved overnight. There's no magic fix that will make every tent vanish and every sidewalk clear. But step by step, city by city, neighbor by neighbor, we can make choices that pull people in instead of pushing them out. We can build more homes, open more doors, and show that we care not just with warm words, but with real action. So the next time you see a row of tents along a city street or under an overpass, don't look away too quickly. Remember that behind every tent is a human being hoping for better days. Remember that they are not invisible, and they shouldn't be treated that way. If we want the America we dream about, the one with bright lights and safe streets and open doors, then we have to make room for everyone. We have to believe that no one should have to sleep in a tent when they'd rather sleep in a bed. And we have to act like we believe it. Not just with pity, but with the power to demand a better system, a stronger safety net, and a deeper sense of community. Because when one person is forced to live in a tent on the street, it doesn't just say something about them. It says something about all of us. And we can do better. We have to.